Hey there, restless minds. Welcome back to Sleepless Survivors. Tonight we're taking you somewhere different, somewhere ancient, somewhere that exists now only in ruins and memory, but once hummed with life, philosophy, and the daily grind of ordinary people just trying to survive. We're going to ancient Greece, but forget the myths. Forget Hercules and Zeus throwing lightning bolts from Mount Olympus. Forget the sanitized marble statues and the romanticized philosophy debates under olive trees. Tonight, we're talking about the real ancient Greece, the one where you'd wake up before dawn, work until your hands bled, eat the same porridge every single day, and go to bed wondering if you'd survive the next harvest season. This isn't a history lesson, it's a survival guide. And if you're here because you can't sleep, because your mind won't quiet down, or because you just need something to focus on while you drift off, you're in the right place. So get comfortable, adjust your pillow, maybe turn on a fan for some white noise in the background, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. I always love seeing the international crew of Insomniacs joining us. Now let's dim the lights, and let's step back 2,500 years. Welcome to ancient Greece. You're about to find out what survival really meant. Chapter 1. Waking up in ancient Athens. Congratulations, you've just opened your eyes in the year 450 BCE. You're in Athens, the golden age of Greek civilization, home to Socrates, Pericles, and the Parthenon rising white and gleaming on the Acropolis above the city. Sounds amazing, right? Wrong. Because you're not a philosopher, you're not a general, you're not even a citizen with voting rights. You're just you, an ordinary person, maybe a craftsman, maybe a farmer living just outside the city walls, maybe a labourer, and right now you're waking up on a straw mat on a hard-packed dirt floor. The sun isn't even up yet, but you are. Because in ancient Greece, sleep is a luxury measured by the sun, and the sun doesn't care about your circadian rhythm. Your bed is basically a woven mat filled with straw, reeds, or if you're lucky, wool. It's lumpy, it's scratchy, and it definitely has bugs. Fleas, lice, bed bugs. They're all part of the package. You share your sleeping space with them and there's no bug spray, no exterminators, no relief. If you're wealthy, truly wealthy, you might have a wooden bed frame with leather straps and a thin mattress stuffed with feathers. But even then, comfort is relative. There are no memory foam mattresses, no adjustable firmness settings, just wood, leather and hope. Most people sleep in their clothes or a simple tunic because, spoiler alert, it gets cold at night. Greece might be sunny and Mediterranean, but winter nights are freezing, and your house has no insulation, no central heating, and definitely no thermostat. Your home, if you can call it that, is small, really small. If you're living in the city, you're probably in a 1 or 2 room house made of sun-dried mud bricks and wood. The roof is thatched or covered with ceramic tiles that leak when it rains. The walls are thin. You can hear your neighbours arguing, coughing and doing other things. If you're rural, your house might be even simpler. Just 4 walls, a packed earth floor and a hole in the roof to let smoke out from the cooking fire. That's it. No windows or maybe one tiny opening covered with a wooden shutter. Privacy. Never heard of her. Your entire family sleeps in the same room. Maybe your parents, your siblings, possibly a grandparent. If you're married, your spouse is next to you. If you have kids, they're piled nearby like a litter of puppies. And let's not forget the livestock. Yes, livestock. In rural areas, animals often slept inside during winter to keep warm. So you might be sharing your sleeping quarters with a goat, some chickens, maybe a donkey. The smell? Imagine a barn. Now imagine sleeping in it. Every single night. You stretch, or try to. Your back cracks. Your neck is stiff. You're maybe 25 years old, but your body feels 50. That's what a lifetime of hard labour, poor nutrition, and sleeping on the ancient equivalent of a yoga mat will do to you. Outside you hear the distant sound of a rooster crowing. Not your rooster, your neighbour's, but it doesn't matter. It's the alarm clock of the ancient world, and it's loud, persistent, and utterly unforgiving. You sit up. Your tunic is damp with sweat or dew or both. Your mouth tastes like something died in it. Your hair is greasy, tangled, and probably hosting a small civilization of lice. But there's no snooze button in ancient Greece. It's time to get up. It's time to survive another day. Chapter 2. The morning routine, or lack thereof. Alright, you're awake. Time to freshen up, right? Brush your teeth, take a hot shower, maybe enjoy a cup of coffee while you scroll through your phone. Yeah, no, none of that exists. Let's start with the bathroom situation. Because in ancient Greece, bathroom is a very generous term. If you live in the city, you might have access to a public latrine. These are communal bathrooms where you sit on a long stone bench with holes cut into it, shoulder to shoulder with strangers, doing your business while making small talk. No stalls, no doors, no privacy. The bench is positioned over a channel of running water, basically an open sewer that flows beneath the seats. You do your thing, and it gets washed away. In theory. In practice, it's a breeding ground for disease, flies, and some truly unforgettable smells. Oh, and toilet paper? Not invented yet. So what do you use? A sponge, on a stick. Called a tussorium by the Romans, but the Greeks had their own version. It's a communal sponge. Yes, communal. You use it, rinse it in the running water or a bucket of vinegar, and leave it for the next person. If you're rural or poor, you don't even have that luxury. You use leaves, moss, stones, or just your hand. Then you rinse it off later. Maybe. Hand washing isn't really a thing. Soap exists, but it's rare and expensive, made from animal fats and ash. Most people just rinse their hands in water, if they remember. Now let's talk about your teeth. Dental hygiene in ancient Greece is, to put it mildly, not great. There are no toothbrushes, no toothpaste, no floss, no dentists. Some people chew on twigs, specifically twigs from the mastic tree, which have antimicrobial properties. This is better than nothing, but not by much. Others rinse their mouths with wine or vinegar, which probably does more harm than good. By the time you're 30, you've likely lost a few teeth. By 40, you might be missing half of them. Cavities, gum disease, abscesses, all common, all painful, and all untreatable. If you get a toothache, you suffer through it. If it gets infected, you might die. Seriously, dental infections can spread to your bloodstream, and without antibiotics, that's often fatal. So you wake up with bad breath, rotting teeth, and a mouth that tastes like the underworld, and there's nothing you can do about it. What about washing your face, taking a bath? Baths exist, but they're not an everyday thing. Water has to be fetched from a public fountain, or, well, carried home in heavy ceramic jugs, and then heated over a fire if you want it warm. That's a lot of effort for a bath. Most people wash their hands and face occasionally, maybe once every few days. Full-body baths are reserved for special occasions, religious festivals, weddings, or if you're wealthy and have slaves to do the heavy lifting. Public bathhouses exist in some cities, but they're not widespread in this period. You might visit one once a month if you're lucky. So most days you just don't bathe. You wipe yourself down with a damp cloth if you're feeling fancy. Otherwise you just accept the layer of grime that accumulates on your skin. Deodorant? Not a thing. Perfume? Only if you're rich. So you smell. Everyone smells. The whole city smells. A mix of sweat, smoke, animal dung and unwashed bodies baking in the Mediterranean sun. You get used to it. You have to. By now, the sun is starting to rise. The city is waking up. You can hear the sounds of people shouting, animals braying, carts clattering over stone streets. Your stomach growls. Time for breakfast, if you can call it that. Chapter 3. Breakfast. A grim start to the day. Breakfast in ancient Greece is not a meal. It's an afterthought. Most Greeks don't eat much in the morning. Maybe a piece of barley bread dipped in wine, maybe some olives, maybe nothing at all. The main meal of the day is dinner, eaten in the late afternoon or evening. Breakfast and lunch are just survival snacks. Let's talk about bread. Because bread is everything in ancient Greece. It's the foundation of your diet, the thing you eat every single day, multiple times a day. But this isn't the soft, fluffy bread you're used to. This is dense, heavy, coarse barley bread that could double as a weapon. Barley's cheaper than wheat, so that's what most people eat. It's ground into flour, mixed with water, and baked into flat, round loaves. No yeast, no butter, no flavour. It's dry. It's chewy. It's filling in the way that eating cardboard is filling. If you're wealthy, you might get wheat bread, which is lighter and tastier. But if you're an average person, you're eating barley. Every single day. Sometimes the bread is so hard you have to dip it in water or wine just to soften it enough to chew. And speaking of wine, yes, you're drinking wine for breakfast. But not because you're living your best life. Because the water is questionable. Ancient Greeks didn't understand germ theory. They didn't know about bacteria or waterborne diseases. But they did notice that people who drank water from certain sources got sick more often. So they drank wine instead. But not straight wine. That would be barbaric. Greeks considered drinking undiluted wine to be something only barbarians and alcoholics did. Instead, they mixed their wine with water. Usually 2 parts water to 1 part wine, sometimes even more diluted. This made the water safer to drink because the alcohol killed some of the bacteria and gave you a mild buzz to start the day. Kids drank diluted wine too. Yes, children. Because again, the water could kill you and wine was safer. So you sit down or squat because chairs are a luxury, and you gnaw on a piece of hard barley bread, dip it in watered down wine and maybe eat a handful of olives. Olives are everywhere in Greece. They're cheap, they're nutritious, and they keep well. You eat them whole, brined, or pressed into oil. Olive oil is basically the duct tape of ancient Greece. You cook with it, you light your lamps with it, you rub it on your skin, you use it as medicine. It's everywhere, but it's not exactly a luxurious breakfast. If you're lucky, you might have some cheese, hard, salty goat or sheep cheese, not the creamy feta you're thinking of. This is aged, crumbly, and strong enough to clear your sinuses, or maybe some dried fish, salted, smoked, and tough as leather. Fruit? Only if it's in season. Figs, grapes, pomegranates. These are treats, not everyday foods, and they don't last long without refrigeration, so you eat them when you can. Vegetables? Sure, if you grow them. Onions, garlic, lentils, chickpeas, cabbage. Boiled usually. Bland. Always. Meat? Forget it. Meat is for festivals, sacrifices, and the wealthy. Most people eat meat a few times a year, if that. The average Greek diet is about 70% grains, 20% vegetables and legumes, and 10% everything else. It's not exciting, it's not Instagram worthy, but it keeps you alive. So you finish your sad little breakfast, wipe the crumbs off your tunic, and prepare for the day ahead. Because the real work is about to begin. Chapter 4. Getting dressed. One tunic to rule them. All time to get dressed. Except you're already dressed, because you slept in your clothes. Let's talk about ancient Greek fashion, or rather, the complete lack of it. If you're a man, you're wearing a chiton, a simple tunic made of wool or linen. It's basically a large rectangle of fabric folded and pinned at the shoulders, belted at the waist. That's it. One piece of clothing. In summer, it's made of linen, which is lighter and breathable. In winter, it's wool, which is warmer but also itchy, heavy, and holds on to every smell your body produces. There's no elastic, no zippers, no buttons, just fabric, pins, and hope. The chiton hangs to about your knees if you're working, or to your ankles if you're trying to look respectable. If you're a woman, you're wearing a peplos or a longer chiton. Same concept. Folded fabric, pinned at the shoulders, belted at the waist. Modest, covering, and deeply uncomfortable. Women's clothing is supposed to cover the body completely. Showing too much skin is scandalous. So you're wrapped up, even in the heat of summer, sweating through your wool. Rich people might have colourful tunics, dyed with expensive pigments. Purple from sea snails, red from insects, blue from plants. But if you're ordinary, your tunic is undyed, natural wool colour, off-white, beige, or greyish. And you own exactly one. Maybe 2 if you're doing well. There's no outfit of the day, no seasonal wardrobe. You wear the same tunic every day until it falls apart, then you get a new one. Or more likely, you patch the old one and keep wearing it. Washing clothes is a huge ordeal. You have to haul water, heat it, scrub the fabric with ash or urine. Yes, urine, it's a natural bleach. Rinse it and hang it to dry. So most people don't wash their clothes often, maybe once a month, maybe less, which means your tunic is stained, smelly, and probably home to a thriving ecosystem of body lice. Underwear? Not really a thing. Some people wear a loincloth, but most don't bother. You're going commando under that tunic, and everyone else is too. Shoes? Optional. If you're wealthy, you might own leather sandals. Simple straps, flat soles, no arch support. But if you're poor or rural, you probably go barefoot most of the time. Your feet are tough, calloused and scarred from stepping on rocks, thorns, and the occasional piece of broken pottery. In winter, you might wrap your feet in cloth or leather scraps. But that's about it. Socks don't exist. Boots are rare and expensive. So you're walking around on bare feet through streets that are covered in dust, animal dung, food waste, and human urine. From the chamber pots emptied out windows, your feet are constantly dirty, constantly sore, and constantly at risk of infection from cuts and scrapes. But you keep going, because everyone else is doing the same thing. Now let's talk about hygiene, or again the lack of it. You don't have deodorant, you don't have perfume unless you're rich, you don't have clean clothes, so you smell strongly. But here's the thing, so does everyone else. The whole city smells like a locker room crossed with a barn. You stop noticing after a while. Your hair is another story. If you're a man, you might keep it short, or you might grow it long and tie it back. Depends on fashion and personal preference. If you're a woman, your hair is long, braided, or pinned up. Cutting a woman's hair is seen as shameful, a sign of mourning or punishment. But whether you're male or female, your hair is dirty, greasy, probably full of lice. Washing your hair requires water, which is heavy and time-consuming to fetch, so most people wash their hair every few weeks, if that. Some people use olive oil to condition their hair, which helps but also makes it greasy. Lice are just part of life. Everyone has them. You pick them out when you have time, crush them between your fingernails and move on. So there you are, dressed in your one scratchy tunic, barefoot or in worn sandals, hair greasy, teeth rotting, and smelling like a goat. Welcome to ancient Greece. Now it's time to work. Chapter 5. Work. The endless grind. If you're an average person in ancient Greece, your job is simple. Don't starve. That's it. That's the goal. Everything you do, from sunrise to sunset, is about securing food, water, and shelter. There's no weekend, no vacation days, no retirement plan. You work 6 days a week, rest on the 7th if you're religious or exhausted, and then start all over again. Let's say you're a farmer. Because most people are. About 80% of the population works the land in some capacity. You live just outside the city walls, maybe a few miles from Athens, on a small plot of land that your family has worked for generations. Your farm is tiny, maybe 10 to 20 acres, and not all of it is usable. Greece is rocky, mountainous, and not particularly fertile. The soil is thin, the climate is dry, and you're constantly battling the elements. You grow barley, because it's hardy and can survive in poor soil. You grow olives, because olive trees thrive in the Greek climate and provide oil, food, and income. You might have a small vineyard for grapes, which you turn into wine. You keep a few animals, goats, sheep, maybe some chickens. They provide milk, cheese, eggs, and occasionally meat. But you don't slaughter them often, because they're worth more alive. Your tools are basic. A wooden plough, pulled by an ox if you're lucky, or by you if you're not. A sickle for harvesting. A hoe for weeding. All made of wood and iron, heavy and awkward. There are no tractors, no machinery. Everything is done by hand, by muscle, by sweat. You wake up before dawn and head to the fields. The sun is just starting to rise, casting long shadows over the rocky ground. If it's planting season, you're ploughing the fields, breaking up the hard earth, scattering seeds, and praying to Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, that they'll grow. If it's growing season, you're weeding, watering from a nearby stream or well and fighting off pests, birds, insects, rodents that want to eat your crops before you can. If it's harvest season, you're cutting barley with a sickle, bundling it, threshing it by beating it to separate the grain from the chaff. Your back aches, your hands blister, the sun beats down mercilessly, and if it's winter, you're pruning, repairing tools, fixing fences, and trying to keep your animals alive through the cold months. Farming is hard, it's relentless, and it's completely dependent on factors you can't control: weather, pests, disease. One bad season and you're facing starvation. One drought, one plague of locusts, one early frost, and your entire year's work is gone. But let's say you're not a farmer. Maybe you're a craftsman in the city. If you're a potter, you're shaping clay on a wheel, firing it in a kiln, painting intricate designs on vases and amphora that will be sold in the agora or exported across the Mediterranean. If you're a blacksmith, you're working in a sweltering workshop, hammering iron into tools, weapons, and nails. The heat is unbearable. The smoke is choking. Your hands are scarred from burns. If you're a weaver, you're sitting at a loom for hours, threading wool, creating fabric for tunics and cloaks. Your fingers are cramped. Your eyes strain in the dim light. If you're a carpenter, you're cutting wood, building furniture, repairing houses. Splinters are a constant companion. Every job is physical, every job is exhausting, and every job barely pays enough to survive. You don't work for a salary, you work for food, for barter, for the ability to feed your family. If you're really unlucky, you're a labourer, carrying heavy loads, digging ditches, working in the silver mines at Lorient. The mines are hell on earth. dark, cramped tunnels where men crawl on their hands and knees, chipping away at rock with crude tools, breathing in dust that will eventually destroy their lungs. Many miners are slaves, but some are free men who have no other option. The pay is terrible, the conditions are deadly, and if you're a woman, your work is no easier. You're up before dawn, grinding grain into flour with a heavy stone quern. Your arms burn from the repetitive motion. You're baking bread, cooking over an open fire, managing smoke that makes your eyes water and your lungs ache. You're fetching water from the public fountain, heavy ceramic jugs balanced on your head or hip, trip after trip until your shoulders scream. You're spinning wool, weaving fabric, mending clothes, all by hand, all by the light of a flickering oil lamp. You're raising children, caring for elderly family members, managing the household. And if you're poor, you're doing all of this while also working outside the home, selling goods in the market, working as a servant, doing whatever it takes to survive. There's no childcare, no appliances, no convenience. Everything takes time, everything takes effort. By midday, you're exhausted, but you can't stop, because the work never ends, so you push through. Because in ancient Greece you work or you starve, and starvation is always just one bad harvest away. Chapter 6. Lunch. If you're lucky midday, the sun is high and brutal. You're sweating through your tunic, your muscles ache and your stomach is growling. Time for lunch. Maybe. If you're working in the fields or at a job site, you probably don't stop for a formal meal. You just grab something quick and keep going. Maybe a piece of bread, maybe some olives or dried figs stuffed in a cloth pouch, maybe a handful of nuts. You eat standing up or squatting in the shade of a tree, washing it down with water or diluted wine from a leather flask. This isn't a meal, it's fuel, bare minimum calories to keep you moving. If you're lucky enough to go home for lunch, maybe you're a craftsman working in the city close to your house, you might sit down for a slightly more substantial meal. Barley porridge. Again, it's thick, bland, and filling. You eat it with a wooden spoon from a clay bowl. Maybe you add some onions, garlic, or herbs if you have them. Maybe a drizzle of olive oil. If it's a good day, maybe some cheese or a bit of salted fish. But most days, it's just porridge. The thing about ancient Greek food is that it's incredibly repetitive. You eat the same things over and over because there aren't many options. Variety is a luxury. Spices are expensive and rare. Meat is for special occasions. So you eat grains, legumes, vegetables, and olives every day, with minor variations. It's boring. It's bland. But it keeps you alive. And honestly, you're too tired to care. After lunch, if you can call it that, it's back to work. The afternoon stretches ahead, long and hot. You've still got hours of labour before the sun sets. Your hands are blistered, your back is on fire, but you keep going. Because this is life. This is survival. And in ancient Greece, survival is all that matters. Chapter 7. The heat, the cold, and everything in between. Let's talk about the weather. Because in ancient Greece, the weather isn't just an inconvenience, it's a matter of life and death. Greece has a Mediterranean climate, which sounds lovely in theory. Warm, sunny, mild. But in practice, it's a land of extremes. Summers are brutal. Temperatures regularly climb into the 90s Fahrenheit, mid-30s Celsius, sometimes higher. The sun is relentless, beating down on you from a cloudless sky. And remember, you're working outside, in the fields, on construction sites, in the marketplace. There's no air conditioning, no fans, no ice. You sweat, you drink water and diluted wine, you seek shade when you can, but mostly you just endure. Heat stroke is common, dehydration is a constant threat. People collapse in the fields and sometimes don't get back up. If you're working in the silver mines, it's even worse. The tunnels are hot, airless, suffocating. Miners work naked because it's too hot for clothes. They drink constantly and still barely survive. And then there's winter. Greece might be Mediterranean, but it still gets cold. Especially at night, especially in the mountains. Especially if you're living in a house with no insulation and no heating. Temperatures can drop to freezing. Snow falls in the highlands. Rain is frequent and heavy. Your house, remember, is made of mud bricks and wood. The roof leaks. The walls have gaps. Cold air seeps in through every crack. You have a small brazier or hearth for heat. A clay or stone basin where you burn charcoal or wood. It provides some warmth, but not much. And fuel is expensive. If you're poor, you can't afford to keep a fire going all night. So you huddle under your wool blanket, shivering, trying to stay warm. Chilblains, frostbite and hypothermia are real dangers, especially for the very young and very old. And the rain, when it rains, it pours. The streets turn to mud. Your house leaks. Everything you own gets damp. There's no way to dry your clothes properly, so you just wear them wet and hope they dry on your body. Mold grows on everything. Your bedding, your clothes, the walls of your house. Respiratory infections are common. Pneumonia kills. But you can't just stay inside and wait for the weather to improve. You still have to work. You still have to fetch water, tend animals, go to the market. So you wrap yourself in your cloak, if you own one, and you trudge through the mud and the rain and the cold. Spring and fall are better. Milder temperatures, less extreme weather. But even then, you're at the mercy of the elements. A sudden storm can destroy your crops. A drought can wipe out your water supply. An unseasonable frost can kill your olive trees. You pray to Zeus for good weather. You make offerings to Demeter for a good harvest. You sacrifice to Poseidon to calm the seas if you're a fisherman, but ultimately you have no control. You just survive, day by day, season by season. And you hope that this year won't be the year everything falls apart. Chapter 8. Water, the eternal struggle. Water. You need it to live. But in ancient Greece, getting it is a daily ordeal. If you live in the city, you're slightly better off. Athens has public fountains fed by aqueducts and springs. You can go there, fill your ceramic jug, and carry it home. But those fountains are communal. There are lines, especially in the mornings and evenings, when everyone is fetching water. You wait your turn, sometimes for an hour or more. You gossip with neighbours, listen to the latest news, and try not to think about how heavy the jug will be on the way back. When it's finally your turn, you fill your jug, a large two-handled amphora that holds several gallons, and then you carry it home, on your head if you're skilled, on your shoulder or hip if you're not. It's heavy, really heavy, and you have to make multiple trips if you need water for drinking, cooking and washing. Women usually do this. Job. It's considered part of household management, so if you're a woman, this is your daily workout, carrying 30 to 40 pounds of water, multiple times a day, every day. Your neck and shoulders ache constantly. But there's no choice. Your family needs water. If you live in the countryside, it's even harder. You don't have public fountains. You have a well if you're lucky, or a nearby stream. If you have a well, you lower a bucket on a rope, pull it up full of water, and repeat. Your arms burn, your hands blister from the rough rope. If you're relying on a stream, you have to walk there and back, sometimes a mile or more, carrying your water jug, and you have to hope the stream is clean, because water quality is a gamble. The Greeks didn't understand germ theory. They didn't know about bacteria or parasites. They just knew that sometimes water made you sick and sometimes it didn't. Springs were generally safe. Moving water was considered a cleaner than stagnant water. But there were no guarantees. If animals drank from the stream, their waste contaminated it. If people washed clothes or bathed upstream, their filth flowed down to you. Drinking bad water could give you dysentery, cholera, typhoid, or a dozen other waterborne diseases. And once you got sick, there was no treatment, no antibiotics, no IV fluids. You either recovered on your own, or you died. So people tried to be careful. They preferred spring water, they boiled water for cooking, and they drank wine, diluted but still alcoholic enough to kill some bacteria. But mistakes happened. People got sick. People died. And water was always a source of anxiety. In summer, water sources dried up. Springs slowed to a trickle. Wells ran low. Droughts were devastating. Without water, crops died. Animals died. People died. In winter, water was plentiful but cold. Washing in icy water was torture. But you did it anyway because hygiene, what little there was, still mattered. Water was also needed for other things. For washing clothes. For making mortar for construction. For religious rituals. Every drop was precious. Every trip to the fountain or well was exhausting. And yet you did it. Every single day. Because without water, there was no life. Chapter 9. Medicine. Pray and hope. Let's say you get sick, or injured, or both. What do you do? In ancient Greece, medicine is a mix of practical knowledge, superstition and prayer. There are doctors, sort of. The Greeks are actually pioneers in medicine. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, is alive during this period, developing his theories about the four humours and the importance of observation and diagnosis. But Hippocratic medicine is still in its infancy, and it's based on ideas that are, let's say, not entirely accurate. According to Greek medical theory, your body contains 4 humours: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Health is all about balance. If your humours are balanced, you're healthy. If they're out of balance, you're sick. So the goal of treatment is to restore balance. Got a fever? You have too much blood. Solution: bloodletting. Cut open a vein and drain some blood into a bowl. Feeling sluggish? Too much phlegm. Solution: make yourself vomit or take a laxative to purge the excess. Got a headache? Probably an imbalance of bile. Solution: more purging. It's not exactly scientific, but the Greeks do have some practical knowledge. They understand the importance of clean wounds. They use wine as an antiseptic. They set broken bones with splints. They perform basic surgeries to remove arrows or treat wounds. But there's no anesthesia. If you need surgery, you're awake for the whole thing. Maybe they give you wine or opium to dull the pain, but you're still conscious, feeling every cut. Infections are common. Without antibiotics, even a small wound can turn deadly. A cut on your foot from a sharp rock. If it gets infected, you could develop gangrene and lose the foot, or your life. A toothache? If it obsesses, the infection can spread to your brain or heart. Childbirth? One of the leading causes of death for women. Complications during delivery, infections afterward. Both are often fatal. For most illnesses, treatment is basic. Rest. Drink water. Eat simple foods. Pray to Asclepius, the god of healing. Sometimes you visit a temple of Asclepius and undergo a healing ritual. You sleep in the temple, hoping the god will visit you in a dream and cure you. Sometimes it works. Or at least people believe it works, which can have a psychological benefit, but often it doesn't. People die from things that would be easily treatable today. Appendicitis, infections, pneumonia, flu. Even minor injuries can be fatal. Life expectancy is low, maybe 40 to 50 years if you survive childhood, but many don't. Infant mortality is high. Maybe 30% of children die before age 5. Childhood diseases, measles, whooping cough, dysentery, sweep through communities regularly, claiming young lives, and there's nothing you can do but watch and pray. If you're wealthy, you can afford a doctor. They'll come to your house, examine you, maybe prescribe herbs or a change in diet. But if you're poor, you're on your own. You rely on home remedies passed down through generations. Herbs gathered from the hillsides, honey for wounds, garlic for infections, willow bark for pain, which actually works. It contains salicin, the precursor to aspirin. Midwives help with childbirth, but they have no formal training. They rely on experience and tradition. Sometimes they save lives, sometimes they can't. Mental illness is poorly understood. If you're depressed or anxious, people might think you're possessed by spirits or cursed by the gods. Treatment, exorcism rituals, offerings at temples, or just being told to snap out of it. Epilepsy is called the sacred disease because people believe it's caused by divine intervention. Physical disabilities are seen as shameful. If you're blind, deaf, or unable to walk, you're often dependent on family charity. There's no social safety net, no disability benefits. You survive if your family can support you. If not, you beg. And throughout all of this, the underlying message is clear. Your health is fragile, your life is uncertain, and death is always close. You live with pain because there's no real way to escape it. You accept suffering as part of existence. And when someone dies, you don't ask why. You just move on. Because in ancient Greece, death is as common as dust. Chapter 10. The afternoon. No rest for the weary. The afternoon sun is brutal. It's the hottest part of the day, and you've been working since before dawn. Your body is screaming at you to stop, but you can't. If you're in the fields, the work continues, hoeing, weeding, watering. The crops don't care that you're exhausted. If you're a craftsman, you're still at your workshop. The orders need to be filled. The customers are waiting. If you're a woman managing the household, you're still grinding grain, baking bread, spinning wool, watching children. There's no concept of an 8-hour workday. You work until the work is done or until the sun sets, whichever comes first. Around mid-afternoon, things might slow down slightly. The heat is so intense that even the most dedicated workers need a break. This is when people might take a brief rest. Find some shade, drink some water, maybe close their eyes for a few minutes. In the city, shops might close for a bit during the hottest hours. The agora, the marketplace, becomes quieter. But this isn't a siesta culture. You don't have the luxury of a long afternoon nap. You rest just long enough to catch your breath, then it's back to work. If you're in the countryside, you might use this time to tend to your animals. Feed the goats, check on the sheep, collect eggs from the chickens. Animals are valuable. They provide food, labour and income. You can't neglect them. Your goats need to be milked. Your sheep need to be moved to fresh grazing. Your ox needs water and rest. These aren't pets. They're tools for survival. But you still care for them because your life depends on their health. If you're a child, and childhood in ancient Greece is short, you're probably working too. By age 7 or 8, boys are helping in the fields or learning a trade from their fathers. Girls are helping their mothers with household tasks, learning to cook, weave and manage a home. There are no child labour laws. No compulsory education for most. If you're from a wealthy family, you might attend school, learning to read, write and debate. But that's a tiny minority. Most children work, because every pair of hands is needed. Play exists, but it's brief and simple. A ball made of rags. A game of knuckle bones, like dice but made from actual animal bones. Tag in the streets. But mostly children work and learn to work harder. As the afternoon wears on, you start thinking about dinner, the main meal of the day. Your stomach is growling. You're hungry, actually hungry, not just peckish. You've been burning calories all day with minimal food, but dinner won't be ready for hours. The sun needs to set first, the work needs to be finished, and the food needs to be prepared. So you push through. One more hour, then another. Your body is a collection of aches and pains. Your muscles throb. Your joints are stiff. Your skin is sunburned and covered in scratches, bruises and insect bites. But you're not alone in this. Everyone around you is suffering too. The old man working the field next to yours moves slowly, his back permanently bent from decades of labour. The woman at the well, carrying her third jug of water, has the weathered face of someone twice her age. The child leading a donkey through the streets has the serious expression of someone who understands that life is hard and will only get harder. This is normal. This is life. And you accept it because what choice do you have? Finally, mercifully, the sun begins its descent toward the horizon. The light softens, the heat eases slightly, and you start the slow process of finishing up your work, cleaning your tools, heading home. Dinner is waiting, and after dinner, sleep. Sweet, blessed sleep, until tomorrow, when it all begins again. Chapter 11. Dinner, the main event, sunset. Finally. You've been working for 12 hours or more. Your body's wrecked. But now, at least you get to eat a proper meal. Dinner is the main meal of the day in ancient Greece. It's when families gather, when you actually sit down and take time to eat. If you're eating at home, the whole family is there. Father, mother, children, maybe a grandparent. You sit on the floor or on low stools around the cooking area. There's no dining table, no formal dining room. The food is simple but more substantial than breakfast or lunch. The centerpiece is usually bread. Barley bread for most people, wheat bread if you're fortunate. But dinner also includes cooked foods. Let's see what's on the menu. Porridge. Yes, again. But this time it's made with more care. Maybe barley cooked with lentils, onions and herbs. It's thick, warm and filling. You eat it from a clay bowl with a wooden spoon. Vegetables. Whatever is in season, and whatever you manage to grow or buy. Cabbage, onions, garlic, leeks, turnips, beets. Boiled or roasted. Maybe drizzled with olive oil and a pinch of salt if you have it. Legumes, lentils, chickpeas, beans. These are protein sources since meat is rare. They're cooked into stews or mashed into paste. Cheese, hard crumbly goat or sheep cheese, salty and strong. You eat it with bread or crumble it into your porridge. Olives, always olives. Brined, black or green, they're on the table at every meal. Dried fish, if you live near the coast or can afford it. Salted, smoked, tough. You tear it into pieces and eat it slowly. Fresh fish. If you're lucky and someone in your family's a fisherman, or you can afford to buy it at the market. Grilled or fried in olive oil, it's a treat, not an everyday food. Fruit, if it's the right season. Figs, grapes, apples, pears, pomegranates. Fresh fruit doesn't keep long, so you eat it when you have it. And if it's a special occasion, a festival, a wedding, a successful harvest, there might be meat, lamb, goat, pork or chicken. Roasted over an open fire, the fat dripping and sizzling, the smell making your mouth water. Meat is sacred. It's often the result of a sacrifice at a temple. You offer the gods the bones and fat. and you get to eat the rest. But this is rare. Most families eat meat only a few times a year. Wine is served with dinner, of course, diluted with water in clay cups. You drink it throughout the meal, refilling your cup from a large mixing bowl called a crater. The atmosphere at dinner depends on your family. Some families talk, sharing stories of the day. Others eat in silence, too tired to make conversation. If guests are visiting, the meal becomes more social. Hospitality is sacred in Greek culture. You're expected to feed and shelter travellers, even strangers. A guest at your table is under your protection. You share your food, your wine, your home. After eating, if you're wealthy, you might stay up for a symposium, a drinking party where men, only men, recline on couches, drink wine, discuss philosophy, recite poetry, and sometimes hire entertainers. But if you're an ordinary person, there's no symposium. You're too exhausted. You clean up the dishes, wooden bowls, clay cups, nothing fancy. You toss scraps to the dog or the chickens. You bank the fire for the night. And then finally, you prepare for sleep. Chapter 12. Evening Rituals and Religion. Before bed. There's one more thing to do. Honour the gods. Religion is woven into every aspect of Greek life. It's not something you do on Sundays. It's constant, daily, personal and public. Every home has a small altar or shrine. Maybe it's dedicated to Hestia, goddess of the hearth, who protects the home. Maybe it's dedicated to Zeus, king of the gods. Or Athena, if you live in Athens. She's the city's patron goddess. You make small offerings. A few drops of wine poured onto the ground, a pinch of grain, a small piece of bread. You say a prayer. Not a long formal prayer. Just a few words, asking for protection, for health, for good fortune. Thank you for today's food. Keep my family safe. Let tomorrow be kind. You teach your children to do the same. Religion isn't something you question. It's just the way things are. The gods are real, present and active in the world. They can help you or harm you depending on whether you honour them properly. So you're careful. You perform the rituals, you attend the festivals, you sacrifice when you can afford it. Public religion is even more elaborate. Athens has dozens of festivals throughout the year, each dedicated to a different god. The Panathenaia, honouring Athena. The Dionysia, honouring Dionysus with theatre. Performances. The Eleusinian Mysteries, secret rites dedicated to Demeter and Persephone. During festivals, work stops. There are processions, sacrifices, feasting, games, theatre. It's a break from the daily grind. A chance to eat meat, drink wine, celebrate. But it's also a religious obligation. You're expected to participate, to honour the gods, to maintain the relationship between the human and divine worlds. Failure to do so brings bad luck, or worse, divine punishment. The gods are not always kind. They're capricious, jealous, quick to anger. You hear stories of people who offended the gods and suffered for it. Struck by lightning, cursed with madness, turned into animals. You don't want to be one of those people, so you're careful. You follow the rules, you make your offerings, and you hope it's enough. After the evening prayers, you prepare for bed. The fire is dying down. The house is dark except for a small oil lamp, a clay vessel filled with olive oil with a wick made of linen. The lamp gives off a weak flickering light and a smoky smell. But it's enough to see by as you arrange your sleeping mat. Pull your wool blanket over you and settle in. The day is over. Finally. Your body aches, your hands are raw, your feet are sore. But you're alive. You made it through another day, and tomorrow you'll do it all again. Chapter 13. Night. Darkness and danger. Night falls over ancient Greece, and with it comes a different kind of world. There are no streetlights, no electric lights in homes, just darkness, thick and absolute. If the moon is full, you can see a bit. The streets of Athens are bathed in pale silver light, and you can make out shapes, shadows, the outline of buildings. But if the moon is new or hidden by clouds, the darkness is complete. You can't see your hand in front of your face. Most people stay inside after dark, because night is dangerous. The streets are not patrolled. There are no police, no organised law enforcement. If you go out at night, you risk running into thieves, drunks, or worse. Robbers operate under cover of darkness, targeting anyone foolish enough to be out alone. They'll take your money, your cloak, your sandals, anything of value, and if you resist, they'll hurt you, or kill you. There's no one to call for help, no emergency services. You're on your own. So most people lock their doors, if they have locks, and stay inside. But even inside, night is not entirely safe. Your house is dark, the fire has burned down to embers, your oil lamp, if you have one, provides only a tiny pool of light. Shadows flicker on the walls. Every creak, every sound makes you wonder, is someone breaking in? Burglaries are common. Thieves dig through mud brick walls or pry open shutters. They steal food, tools, anything they can sell or use. If you're lucky, they do it while you're out. If you're unlucky, you wake up to find a stranger in your home. And then there are the animals. Rats, mice, snakes, scorpions, spiders. They come out at night, scurrying through the darkness looking for food. You hear them scratching in the walls, rustling in the thatch roof, skittering across the floor. If you're bitten by a venomous snake or scorpion, you're in serious trouble. There's no anti-venin. You just have to hope you survive. And then there are the night sounds. Dogs barking in the distance. Cats yowling. The occasional shout or scream from a neighbouring house. You try not to think about what might be causing those sounds. Superstition runs deep. Many Greeks believe that night is when spirits and demons roam. Ghosts of the dead who weren't properly buried. Malevolent spirits who prey on the living. You make sure your doors are shut. You say a prayer to the household gods for protection. And you try to sleep. But sleep doesn't always come easily. The straw mattress is lumpy. The fleas are biting. Your body aches from the day's work. Your mind won't shut off. You think about tomorrow's tasks, about whether the crops will survive, about whether you can afford to buy more olive oil or fix the roof before the winter rains. You worry about your children. Are they healthy? Will they survive to adulthood? You worry about money, about food, about everything. And sometimes, despite your exhaustion, you just lie there in the darkness, listening to your family breathing around you, waiting for dawn. Eventually, sleep comes. Fitful, restless sleep filled with strange dreams. And then, far too soon, you hear it. The rooster crowing. Morning is here. It's time to get up and do it all over again. Chapter 14. Social Life. Community and Hierarchy. Let's talk about your social life. Because even in ancient Greece, even while struggling to survive, humans are social creatures. But social life in ancient Greece is heavily structured. Your place in society is determined by birth, gender, and citizenship status. If you're a free adult male citizen born to Athenian parents, you're at the top of the social pyramid. You have rights, you can vote in the assembly, hold public office, own property, and participate in the legal system. But citizens are a minority. Maybe 30-40% of the population of Athens are citizens. If you're a woman, even if you're born to citizen parents, you're not a citizen in the full sense. You can't vote, hold office, or participate in political life. Your role is in the home, managing the household, raising children, weaving cloth. Respectable women don't spend time in public. They stay inside. Going to the market is acceptable. Fetching water is necessary. Attending religious festivals is expected. But beyond that, being out and about is seen as improper. If you're a metic, a resident foreigner, you have some rights, but not full citizenship. You can work, own a business, and live in Athens, but you can't vote or own land. You pay special taxes for the privilege of living here. Many metics are craftsmen, merchants, and labourers. They're essential to the economy, but they're always outsiders, and if you're a slave you have no rights at all. Slavery is common in ancient Greece. Maybe 30% of the population are slaves. They work in homes, in workshops, in the silver mines, on farms. Some are war captives, some are born into slavery, some were sold into slavery by their families or by pirates. Treatment varies. Household slaves might be treated relatively well, almost like family members. Mine slaves live in hell, work to death in darkness and despair. But regardless of treatment, slaves are property. They can be bought, sold, punished, or killed at their owner's discretion. So where do you fit in this hierarchy? Let's say you're a free male citizen. Not wealthy, but not destitute. A farmer or craftsman. Your social life revolves around the agora, the marketplace and public square. This is where you go to shop, to hear news, to gossip, to meet friends. The agora is loud, crowded, chaotic. Merchants shout about their wares. Philosophers debate in corners. Politicians give speeches. Street performers entertain crowds. You stop to chat with neighbours. You hear the latest gossip. Who's getting married? Who died? What new laws are being proposed in the assembly? You might spend time at a workshop or a barbershop, places where men gather to talk. Conversation is entertainment. News travels by word of mouth, so staying connected is important. If you're wealthy, you might belong to a hetareia, a social club or brotherhood. These are exclusive groups where elite men form political alliances, dine together, and support each other. But if you're ordinary, your social circle is smaller. Family, neighbours, co-workers. Evenings, after work, you might visit a tavern. These are simple places, just a room with benches, serving wine and simple food. You sit with other men, yes, only men. Taverns are male spaces, drinking diluted wine, eating olives and bread, talking about the day. You play dice games or knucklebones, gambling small amounts. You tell jokes, share stories, complain about the government or the weather. It's a brief escape from the grind of daily life. For women, social life is more limited. You see other women at the well, at the market, at religious festivals. These are your opportunities to talk, to share news, to maintain friendships. Women's friendships are important. They provide support, advice, and companionship in a world where your life is largely confined to the home. You might visit a neighbour's house, sitting together while you spin wool or mend clothes, talking while you work. Religious festivals are major social events. The whole community participates. Men, women, children. There are processions through the streets, sacrifices at temples, feasting and drinking, dancing and singing. For a brief moment, social hierarchies relax a bit. Everyone is united in honouring the gods. These festivals break up the monotony of daily life. They're something to look forward to, a rare moment of joy and celebration. But most days your social life is simple. Quick conversations, brief interactions, stolen moments of connection, because there's always work to do, always something that needs your attention. And in ancient Greece, survival comes before socializing. Chapter 15. Politics, Power and Participation. If you're a male citizen of Athens, you have a privilege that most people in the ancient world don't have, a voice in government. Athens is a democracy. Not a perfect democracy by modern standards. Women, slaves and foreigners can't participate, but for male citizens, it's revolutionary. The heart of Athenian democracy is the ecclesia, the assembly of citizens. It meets on a hill called the Nix, west of the Acropolis. Any citizen can attend. Any citizen can speak. Any citizen can vote on laws, policies, war and peace. In theory, it's egalitarian. In practice, it's complicated. First, attendance requires time. The assembly usually meets in the morning 40 times a year or more. If you're a farmer living outside the city, can you afford to walk several miles to Athens, spend half the day at the assembly and walk back? That's a full day of work lost. If you're a craftsman with orders to fill, can you afford to close your shop and attend? Wealthy citizens can afford to participate regularly. They have slaves or employees to do their work. They have leisure time. Poor citizens struggle to attend. They need every hour of work just to survive. Still, important meetings draw large crowds. Decisions about war, major building projects, ostracism votes, these bring out thousands of citizens. You stand on the hillside with your fellow citizens packed shoulder to shoulder. A herald calls for silence. Speakers take the platform. There's no formal stage, just a spot where you stand to address the crowd. Politicians give speeches. Orators sway the crowd with rhetoric. Debates can be fierce, passionate, even violent. You vote by raising your hand. A simple majority decides the issue. It's direct democracy. No representatives, no electoral college, just citizens making decisions collectively. It feels powerful. You're part of the decision-making process. Your voice matters, but it's also exhausting and frustrating. Because wealthy, educated men dominate the debates. They know how to speak persuasively. They have the time to craft compelling arguments. If you're an ordinary farmer or craftsman, you might not feel comfortable speaking in front of thousands of people. So you listen and vote, but you don't shape the conversation. Still, it's more than most people in the ancient world have. Beyond the assembly, there are courts. Athens has a complex legal system with juries composed of citizens. If you have a dispute, a property disagreement, a contract issue, an accusation of wrongdoing, you take it to court. There are no professional lawyers. You argue your own case, or you hire a speechwriter to compose your argument. The jury is large, often hundreds of citizens chosen by lot. They listen to both sides and vote immediately. No judge, no appeals. The jury's decision is final. It's democratic, but it's also chaotic. Persuasion matters more than evidence. A good speaker can win even a weak case. And then there's ostracism. Once a year, the assembly can vote to exile a citizen for 10 years. It's a way to remove someone who's become too powerful or dangerous. No trial, no charges, just a vote. Citizens write a name on a broken piece of pottery, an ostracon, and drop it in a pot. If one person receives enough votes, they're exiled. It's democracy, but it's also mob rule. Popular opinion can turn against you quickly. So while Athens prides itself on democracy, it's far from perfect. If you're a woman, you have no voice. If you're a slave, you have no rights. If you're foreign, you're excluded. And even if you're a citizen, your influence depends on your wealth, education, and speaking ability. Still, for those who can participate, it's something. It's a system where, at least in theory, the people have power. And in a world of kings and tyrants, that's revolutionary. Chapter 16. War. The ever-present threat. War is a constant reality in ancient Greece. The Greek world is not a unified nation. It's a collection of city-states. Athens, Sparta, Corinth, Thebes, and hundreds of others, each fiercely independent, often in conflict. Alliances shift. Border disputes erupt into violence. Trade rivalries turn into wars. And if you're a male citizen, you're expected to fight. Athens doesn't have a professional standing army. It has a citizen militia. When war comes, you grab your equipment and join the ranks. If you're wealthy, you serve as a hoplite, a heavily armed infantryman. You provide your own equipment, a bronze breastplate, a helmet, greaves for your legs, a large round shield, a spear, and a sword. This equipment is expensive. It can cost as much as several months' income, but it's your duty as a wealthy citizen. If you're poorer, you might serve as a light infantryman or a rower in the navy. The state provides some equipment, but you're still expected to serve. Training is irregular. There's no boot camp. You're expected to know how to fight because you've been practicing since childhood. Wrestling, running, throwing javelins. When war is declared, a herald announces the mobilization. You have days, maybe a week, to settle your affairs and report for duty. You say goodbye to your family. You don't know if you'll come back. War is brutal and terrifying. Battle is not like the movies. It's chaos. You stand in a phalanx, a tight formation of hoplites, shields overlapping, spears pointing forward. You're packed so close you can smell the man next to you, feel his breath, hear his prayers. The two armies march toward each other, slowly at first, then faster, then running. The crash when the phalanxes meet is deafening. Shields slam together, spears thrust, men scream. You push forward with your shield, trying to break the enemy line. You stab with your spear, aiming for gaps in armour, throats, armpits, groins. Men fall, blood sprays. Bodies pile up. You step over the dead and wounded, pushing forward, always forward. The noise is overwhelming. Metal on metal, screaming, grunting, the wet sounds of blades cutting flesh. You can't see much. Your helmet restricts your vision. You trust the men beside you to protect your flanks. If the line breaks, you retreat. If you hold, the enemy retreats. Either way, the battlefield is littered with bodies. After the battle, the survivors strip the dead of armour and weapons. These are valuable. The victors collect them as trophies. The wounded are everywhere, groaning, crying for help, bleeding out. If you're injured, your best hope is that your comrades carry you off the field. There are no medics, no ambulances, just friends who might save you or leave you to die. If you survive, you march home. It might take days or weeks. When you finally return to Athens, you try to resume your normal life. But nothing feels normal. You've seen things, done things. You have nightmares. The smell of blood haunts you. But there's no therapy, no support groups. You just push it down and keep going. And you hope the next war doesn't come too soon. But it always does. Chapter 17. Family life. Love, marriage, and children. Let's talk about family. Because in ancient Greece, family is everything. Your family is your identity, your support system, your safety net. Marriage is not about love. It's about alliances, property, and children. If you're a man, you marry in your late 20s or early 30s. By then you're established. You have land or a trade. You can support a family. If you're a woman, you marry much younger, often in your mid-teens, sometimes as young as 13 or 14. You have no say in the matter. Your father arranges your marriage. choosing a husband based on family connections, wealth, and social status. You might meet your husband once before the wedding, or not at all. The wedding is a public ceremony with processions, sacrifices, and feasting. But the bride is often nervous, even terrified. You're leaving your family home forever, moving in with a stranger and his family. Your role as a wife is clear: manage the household, bear children, especially sons, and maintain the family's reputation. Love might develop over time, or it might not. Either way, you make it work because you have to. If you're a man, you're expected to be faithful to your wife in public. But having affairs is common and socially acceptable. You might visit prostitutes or have a mistress. Your wife, however, must be faithful. Adultery by a wife is a serious crime, grounds for divorce and public shame. Children are the goal of marriage, sons especially. They continue the family line, inherit property and care for parents in old age. Daughters are less valued. They require dowries when they marry, which is a financial burden, and they leave the family to join their husband's household. Still, you love your children. You want them to survive, to thrive. But survival is not guaranteed. Infant mortality is heartbreakingly high. Maybe 30-40% of babies die in their first year. Disease, malnutrition, accidents, all are common. You watch your baby constantly, terrified every time they cough or develop a fever. If a baby is born weak or deformed, there's a practice, horrible but real, of exposure. The baby is left outside to die. It's not common. Most families try to care for all their children, but it happens, especially if the family is desperately poor and can't afford another mouth to feed. If your child survives infancy, you celebrate. You've beaten the odds. Childhood is brief. By age 7, children start working. Boys help their fathers, girls help their mothers. There's no formal schooling for most children. Education is for the wealthy. If you're rich, your son might attend school, learning to read, write, play music and debate. He'll train in athletics at the gymnasium. But if you're ordinary, your son learns by doing, working alongside you in the fields or the workshop. Your daughter stays home, learning domestic skills, cooking, weaving, managing a household. Play exists, but it's limited. Simple toys, dolls made of cloth, miniature carts, balls. Children grow up fast because they have to. By their teens, they're adults, ready to marry, to work, to start the cycle over again. Family bonds are strong. You live with or near your extended family, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins. When someone dies, the family grieves together. Mourning rituals are important. Washing the body, dressing it, placing a coin in the mouth to pay Karen, the ferryman of the underworld. The funeral is a public event. Women wail and tear their hair. Men deliver eulogies. The body is buried or cremated outside the city walls. Grave markers are simple. A stone slab with the person's name. And then life goes on. Because it has to. Family is your anchor in a chaotic world. It's where you find love, support, and purpose. Even in the midst of hardship, you have each other, and that makes survival a little more bearable. Chapter 18. Women's Lives. Silent Strength. Let's focus specifically on women, because their experience of ancient Greece is vastly different from men's. If you're a woman, your life is defined by restriction, expectation, and quiet resilience. From birth, you're less valued than your brothers. Your father might celebrate your birth, but not with the same enthusiasm as if you were a boy. Your childhood is short. By age 7, you're learning household tasks. By your teens, you're being prepared for marriage. Your education is minimal. Maybe you learn to read and write if your family values it. But mostly you learn domestic skills, spinning, weaving, cooking, managing servants if your family has them. Marriage is inevitable. Your father arranges it. You have no choice in the matter. You marry young, often to a man twice your age. You leave your family home and move into your husband's house, living with him and his family. Your job is to bear children, manage the household, and stay out of sight. Respectable women don't spend time in public. The ideal is to be so modest, so secluded, that people don't even know your name. Your world is the home, the interior rooms, the courtyard, the space where men don't typically go. When men have guests, you retreat to the women's quarters. You don't join the conversation. You don't serve the food. Slaves or your husband do that. You spend your days spinning wool, weaving cloth on a large upright loom. This is not a hobby. It's essential. Your family needs clothing, and buying fabric is expensive. You make all the clothing your family wears. You make blankets, cloaks, and household linens. You grind grain, bake bread, cook meals, fetch water, manage food stores. If you have children, you care for them constantly. Feeding, cleaning, teaching, worrying. If you have slaves, you supervise them. But even wealthy women work. Managing a household is complex and demanding. You rarely leave the house. When you do, it's for specific purposes. Fetching water, attending a religious festival, visiting a female relative. You don't go to the agora unless necessary. You don't attend the theatre or the gymnasium. These are male spaces. Your reputation depends on your invisibility. Being talked about is bad. Being seen too often is bad. Being too friendly with men is scandalous. If your husband dies, you don't inherit his property. It goes to his sons or male relatives. You might be sent back to your father's house or married off to another man. You have no legal independence. You can't own property, sign contracts, or represent yourself in court. Your entire life, you're under the authority of a man, your father, then your husband, then your sons. But here's the thing. Despite all these restrictions, women are not passive victims. You find power in the spaces available to you. You manage the household finances, making decisions about what to buy, what to store, what to use. You raise the next generation, shaping your children's values and character. You form strong bonds with other women, friends, relatives, neighbours. These relationships provide emotional support and practical help. You participate in religious festivals, where you have roles men can't fill. Some festivals are exclusively for women, giving you rare freedom and authority. You worship goddesses like Demeter and Persephone, Artemis and Athena, divine reflections of female power. And in the privacy of your home, you have influence. You advise your husband, even if he pretends the ideas are his own. You manage daily life, making countless decisions that keep the family functioning. Your work is invisible to history, but it's the backbone of society. Without women grinding grain, there's no bread. Without women weaving, there's no clothing. Without women managing households, the whole system collapses. Some women find even more agency. If you're a hetera, a courtesan, you exist outside respectable society, but you have freedoms married women don't. Heterae are educated, witty, beautiful. They attend symposia, converse with men, sometimes accumulate wealth and property. They're looked down upon by respectable society, but they have independence that married women can only dream of. If you're a priestess, you have religious authority. Some priestesses are powerful figures, conducting rituals, interpreting omens, managing temple resources. The priestess of Athena Polias in Athens is one of the most important religious figures in the city. She has status, respect, and influence. But for most women, life is domestic, restricted, and hard. You work constantly. You worry about your children. You endure pregnancy after pregnancy, knowing each one might kill you. You age quickly. By your 30s, you look 50. Hard work, multiple pregnancies, and stress take their toll, but you endure. You find joy in small things, a child's laugh, a friendship, a religious festival, the satisfaction of a well-run household. You don't have political power, but you have resilience. You don't have legal rights, but you have dignity. You don't have freedom, but you have strength. And you survive. Because that's what women have always done. Chapter 19. Slavery. The foundation of society. We need to talk about slavery, because you can't understand ancient Greece without understanding this ugly truth. The entire society is built on enslaved labour. If you're enslaved in ancient Greece, your life is not your own. Slavery is everywhere. Maybe 30% of the population are slaves. They work in homes, in workshops, in fields, in mines. Athens prides itself on democracy, on freedom, but that freedom exists only for citizens. It's purchased with the labour of enslaved people. How do people become slaves? War is the primary source. When Athens conquers a city, the men might be killed, but women and children are often enslaved. Prisoners of war are sold in slave markets. Piracy is another source. Pirates raid coastal villages, capture people, and sell them to slave traders. Some people are born into slavery. If your mother is enslaved, you're enslaved too from birth. Some are sold into slavery by their families. If a family is desperate, facing starvation, they might sell a child to pay debts. And some are enslaved as punishment for crimes or debts they couldn't pay. Once you're enslaved, you're property. You can be bought, sold, rented, inherited, or given as a gift. Your experience depends entirely on your owner and your role. If you're a household slave in a relatively kind home, life might be tolerable. You clean, cook, care for children, run errands. You live in your owner's house, probably sleeping in a corner or a storage room. You eat the same food as the family, though you get smaller portions. Your owner might treat you decently, even with a certain rough affection. Some slaves are considered almost part of the family, but you have no rights. Your owner can beat you for disobedience, can sell you at any time, can sexually abuse you with no consequences. If you're a skilled slave, a craftsman, a teacher, a secretary, you might have some status. Your owner values your skills and treats you better. Some skilled slaves are allowed to live independently, working and keeping a portion of their earnings. Over time, you might save enough to buy your freedom. But most slaves never achieve freedom. If you're a rural slave, working on a farm, life is harder. Long hours of agricultural labour, poor conditions, minimal supervision. You're separated from other slaves, isolated with little hope of anything better. And if you're a mine slave, you're in hell. The silver mines at Lorient are notorious. Thousands of slaves work there, digging deep shafts into the earth, extracting silver ore. You work in darkness, in tunnels barely wide enough to crawl through. The air is thick with dust. Your lungs fill with it, making every breath painful. You chip away at rock with iron tools, hour after hour, day after day. Your hands bleed. Your back is permanently bent. You sleep in barracks, chained at night to prevent escape. Food is minimal, just enough to keep you working. Many slaves die in the mines. Cave-ins, exhaustion, lung disease. Your life expectancy is measured in years, not decades. No one cares. You're replaceable. When you die, another slave takes your place. Resistance is difficult but not impossible. Some slaves run away. If you escape, you try to reach a temple and claim sanctuary, or flee to another city-state. But if you're caught, the punishment is severe. Branding, beating, even execution. Some slaves resist in smaller ways, working slowly, breaking tools, accidentally, stealing food. It's dangerous, but it's a way to maintain some shred of dignity. There are rare cases of slave revolts, though not in Athens during this period. But the fear of revolt is always present. Owners know that slaves outnumber free people in many households and workshops, so they use a combination of incentives and punishments to maintain control. Some slaves are eventually freed. Manumission happens, especially for loyal household slaves or skilled workers who've saved money to buy their freedom. But even then, you're not fully free. You're a freedman, a former slave, marked by your past. You have some rights, but you're still not a citizen. And the trauma of slavery never fully leaves you. The psychological toll of being property, of having no control over your life, of being subject to another person's whims, it shapes you forever. Athens celebrates freedom, democracy, and human dignity. But that celebration is built on the backs of enslaved people who have none of those things. It's a contradiction at the heart of Greek civilization, and it's impossible to ignore. Chapter 20. Entertainment. Rare moments of joy. Life in ancient Greece is hard, but it's not entirely joyless. There are moments, brief, precious moments, of entertainment, pleasure, and escape. Let's start with festivals, because festivals are the highlight of the social calendar. Athens has dozens of festivals throughout the year, celebrating various gods and goddesses. The largest is the Panathenaia, held every 4 years in honour of Athena. It's a massive celebration lasting several days. There's a procession through the city. Thousands of people, citizens, metics, even some slaves, parade from the city to the Acropolis, carrying offerings to Athena's temple. Musicians play, dancers perform, people carry sacrificial animals, cows, sheep, goats, to be offered to the goddess. At the temple, the animals are sacrificed. The gods get the bones and fat burned on the altar. The people get the meat distributed and cooked in a huge communal feast. For many people, this is the only time all year they eat meat, so it's a major treat. There are also athletic competitions, foot races, wrestling, boxing, chariot racing. Athletes compete for glory and prizes, and there's music, poetry, and dancing. The whole city celebrates. Another major festival is the Dionysia, honouring Dionysus, god of wine and theatre. This festival includes dramatic competitions. Playwrights submit tragedies and comedies, which are performed in the theatre of Dionysus on the southern slope of the Acropolis. The theatre is huge, seating thousands. It's an open-air amphitheatre carved into the hillside. You arrive early in the morning. Performances last all day. You sit on stone benches. Bring a cushion if you're smart, because you'll be there for hours. The plays are powerful. Tragedies by Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides. Stories of gods and heroes, fate and hubris, suffering and catharsis. Comedies by Aristophanes. Bawdy, satirical, mocking politicians and social norms. They're hilarious and sometimes scandalous. Actors wear masks and costumes. A chorus sings and dances, commenting on the action. It's immersive, emotional, communal. You laugh, you cry, you think. For a day, you're transported out of your ordinary life into the realm of myth and imagination. Beyond festivals, there are simpler pleasures, athletic training and competition. If you're a young man, you spend time at the gymnasium. Not a modern gym, but an open space for exercise and training. You wrestle, run, throw javelins and discusses. You oil your body, scrape off the dirt and sweat with a strigil, a curved metal tool, and socialise with other men. The gymnasium is also a place for education and conversation. Philosophers and teachers hang around discussing ideas with students. Music is part of daily life. People play the lyre, a stringed instrument, and the aulos, a double-piped flute. You sing at symposia, at festivals while working. Music isn't just entertainment, it's considered essential to education and culture. Children play games, knucklebones, like dice, ball games, tag, hide and seek. Simple pleasures that don't require expensive toys. Adults play games too. Dice and knucklebones are popular for gambling. Board games like Pataya, similar to checkers, are played at taverns and homes. Storytelling is a major form of entertainment. Elders tell tales of gods and heroes, stories of the Trojan War, the adventures of Odysseus, the labours of Heracles. These stories are passed down orally, recited by professional bards or just shared among family and friends. They're not just entertainment, they're education, teaching values, history and cultural identity. And then there's the symposium, the drinking party for elite men. After dinner, couches are arranged in a circle. Men recline. Reclining is a status symbol. Barbarians and women sit upright. Wine is mixed in a large crater and served in cups. The wine flows freely, though still diluted. There's conversation, philosophy, politics, gossip. There's music. Someone plays the lyre, everyone sings. There are games. Kotobos, where you flick wine dregs at a target. Riddles and word games. Sometimes there are hired entertainers, musicians, dancers, acrobats, and sometimes there are heterai, courtesans who provide companionship and conversation. Symposia can get rowdy. Drunk men stumble through the streets singing loudly, sometimes causing trouble. But for those invited, it's a cherished social ritual. For most people, though, entertainment is simpler and rarer. A conversation with friends at the agora, a shared meal, a religious festival. These moments of joy are brief, but they're what make life bearable. They remind you that you're human, not just a labourer. They give you something to look forward to, something to remember during the hard days. And in ancient Greece, hard days are most days. But the good moments, those rare, shining moments, they matter. They keep you going. Chapter 21. Philosophy. The life of the mind. While you're struggling to survive, there's another world existing alongside yours, the world of philosophy. Athens in the 5th century BCE is the intellectual centre of the Greek world. Thinkers are asking big questions. What is justice? What is virtue? How should we live? What is the nature of reality? You've probably heard of some of them. Socrates wandering the agora, stopping people to ask them difficult questions. Plato, his student, founding the academy. Eventually Aristotle, though he comes a bit later. But here's the thing. Philosophy is mostly for the elite. If you're an ordinary person, struggling to feed your family, you don't have time to sit around contemplating the nature of truth. You're too busy surviving. Still, philosophy filters down. You hear snippets of conversation in the agora. You attend plays that grapple with moral questions. You participate in democratic debates that touch on justice and governance. The sophists, travelling teachers who charge fees to teach rhetoric and persuasion, are controversial but influential. Some people admire them. Others, like Socrates, think they're corrupting the youth with moral relativism. Socrates himself is a strange figure. He claims to know nothing, but he's constantly questioning others' beliefs, exposing contradictions, making people uncomfortable. He doesn't write anything down, he just talks. Dialectic, he calls it. A method of inquiry through dialogue. To the elite, he's fascinating. To ordinary people, he's probably annoying. Who has time for endless questions when there's work to do? Eventually, his questioning gets him in trouble. In 399 BCE, he'll be put on trial for impiety and corrupting the youth. He'll be found guilty and sentenced to death, forced to drink hemlock. But in 450 BCE, he's still around, still asking questions, still irritating people. If you're educated and wealthy, you might engage with philosophy. You might attend lectures, read scrolls, participate in discussions. You might grapple with the big questions. What is the good life? Is virtue teachable? What are the forms of government? These questions aren't abstract. They have real implications for how you live, how you vote, how you treat others. But if you're ordinary, philosophy is a luxury you can't afford. Your philosophy is simpler, more practical. Work hard. Honour the gods. Care for your family. Survive. Still, the presence of philosophical inquiry in Athens is part of what makes the city special. It's a place where ideas matter, where questioning is valued up to a point, where the examined life is considered worth living. Even if you're not personally engaged in philosophy, you live in a society that is, and that shapes the culture, the politics, the very air you breathe. Athens is not just a city of survival, it's also a city of thought, and that's part of its legacy, one that will outlast the buildings and the people, echoing through centuries. Chapter 22. Death. The final journey. Death is everywhere in ancient Greece. You see it regularly. A neighbour who fell ill and didn't recover, a child who died of fever, an old man who simply stopped waking up. Life expectancy is low. If you survive to adulthood, you might live to 50 or 60. But many don't. Infant mortality claims countless babies. Childhood diseases kill many who survive infancy. Accidents, infections, wars, and childbirth take the rest. Death is not hidden away. It's part of life. When someone dies, the family washes the body, dresses it in clean clothes, places a coin in the mouth. Payment for Charon, the ferryman who'll carry the soul across the river Styx to the underworld. The body's laid out at home for a day or two so people can pay respects. Women of the family wail and mourn, tearing their hair and clothes in grief. Then comes the funeral procession. At dawn, the body is carried through the streets on a bier, followed by family and friends. Women lead the procession, wailing. Men follow behind, more restrained in their grief. You process out of the city to the cemetery. Burials must take place outside the city walls. It's a religious requirement. The body is either buried or cremated. Burial is more common for ordinary people. The body is placed in a simple grave, maybe in a wooden coffin, maybe just wrapped in cloth. A marker is placed, a stone slab with the person's name, and maybe a brief epitaph. Here lies name, son of father's name, who lived a good life. If the family can afford it, there might be a carved relief showing the deceased. Offerings are left at the grave: oil, wine, food. These are gifts for the dead to sustain them in the afterlife. After the burial, the family returns home for a funeral feast. It's a way to honour the dead and comfort the living. But what happens after death? Greeks believe in an afterlife, though it's not particularly appealing. Your soul, your psyche, leaves your body and travels to the underworld, ruled by Hades and Persephone. To get there, you must cross the river Styx. Charon ferries you across if you can pay him, hence the coin in the mouth. Once in the underworld, you become a shade, a ghostly, insubstantial version of yourself. For most people, the afterlife is a dreary existence in the fields of asphodel, a grey, shadowy place where nothing much happens. You drift, insubstantial, barely conscious. If you were particularly virtuous or favoured by the gods, you might go to Elysium, a pleasant place of rest and happiness. If you were particularly wicked, you might end up in Tartarus, a place of punishment and torment. But most people expect asphodel. Existence, but not really life. This belief shapes how you live. There's no promise of heaven, no eternal reward. The underworld is not something to look forward to, so you focus on this life, on earning glory, honour and remembrance. You want to be remembered. You want your name to live on, spoken by your descendants, carved in stone. That's your immortality, not the shadowy half-life in the underworld, but the memory of your life in the minds of the living. When someone dies, their absence is felt acutely. But life goes on. You mourn. You perform the rituals, you remember them, and then you return to the daily grind of survival. Because death is inevitable, but life demands your attention, and in ancient Greece you honour the dead by continuing to live, to work, to endure. Chapter 23. The Legacy. Why it matters. So you've made it through a day, actually many days, in ancient Greece. You've experienced the dirt, the labour, the pain, the fear, the small joys, and the constant struggle to survive. It's been hard, exhausting, unglamorous, nothing like the myths and legends. But here's the thing. This ordinary life, this daily grind, is what made ancient Greece possible. While you were farming and fetching water, Athens was creating democracy. While you were weaving and cooking, playwrights were writing tragedies that still move audiences today. While you were struggling to survive, philosophers were asking questions that still shape Western thought. The glory of Athens, the Parthenon, the plays, the philosophy, was built on the backs of ordinary people like you. Farmers who grew the food, craftsmen who made the tools, women who managed the households, slaves who did the labour no one else wanted to do. History remembers the famous names: Pericles, Socrates, Sophocles. But history forgets the thousands of ordinary people who made their achievements possible. You don't get a statue, you don't get your name in a history book, but without you, there is no golden age of Athens. The democracy that Pericles praised in his famous funeral oration, it functioned because citizens like you participated. The plays performed at the Dionysia. They were watched by audiences full of ordinary Athenians. The philosophy debated in the Agora. It took place in a city that you helped build and maintain. Your life mattered, even if no one remembered your name. And here's another truth. The struggles you faced are not entirely foreign to us. We still work to survive. We still worry about our health, our families, our futures. We still find joy in small things. We still seek meaning in a difficult world. The details are different. We have technology, medicine, comforts that ancient Greeks couldn't imagine. But the fundamental human experience, the struggle, the hope, the resilience, that's the same. Ancient Greece reminds us that civilization is fragile, built on the daily efforts of countless individuals. That democracy requires participation, not just from elites but from ordinary citizens. That art and philosophy matter, but so does the practical work of feeding people and keeping society functioning. And that ordinary lives have dignity, even when history forgets them. So when you think about ancient Greece, don't just think about the Parthenon gleaming white on the Acropolis. Think about the farmer who grew the barley, the woman who wove the cloth, the slave who quarried the marble. Think about the ordinary people who lived, worked, suffered, and endured, because they're the ones who made it all possible. Chapter 24. A day ends, another begins. The sun has set. The day is over. You're lying on your straw mat, wrapped in your wool blanket, exhausted down to your bones. Your body aches. Your hands are rough and scarred. Your feet are sore. But you're alive. You've survived another day in ancient Greece. Outside, the city is quiet. Most people are asleep. A few oil lamps flicker in windows. Dogs bark in the distance. The stars are brilliant overhead, undimmed by light pollution. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like a river of light. Ancient Greeks called it the Milky Circle, and they told stories about it. Spilled milk from Hera's breast, the path souls take to the afterlife. You look up at those stars and think about the gods, about fate, about tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll wake before dawn, you'll do it all again. The work, the struggle, the endless routine. But tonight, you rest. Your breathing slows, your muscles relax. Sleep comes, finally, mercifully, and you dream. Maybe you dream of better days, of a good harvest, of your children growing strong and healthy. Maybe you dream of festivals, of feasts, of moments of joy. Or maybe you just sleep dreamlessly, your body too exhausted for anything else. Outside, the night continues. The moon rises, casting silver light over Athens. The city sleeps, but it will wake again. It always does, and tomorrow you'll be part of that awakening. Because you're a survivor. That's what you do. You survive. Epilogue. For the sleepless ones. If you're still awake, listening to this story of ancient survival, maybe you're finding some comfort in it. There's something soothing about stepping out of your own time, your own worries, and entering another world. A world where the struggles were different but somehow familiar. where people worked hard, worried about their families, and found moments of peace. Ancient Greece is gone now. Those people, the farmers and weavers, the philosophers and slaves, the men and women and children, they're all dust. But their struggles echo through time, and maybe, in some small way, knowing about their lives makes your own struggles feel less lonely. Because humans have always endured, always found ways to survive, always pushed forward, even when it was hard, and if they could do it, so can you. So rest now. Let your mind slow down. Let the stories of ancient survival carry you towards sleep. Tomorrow will come. It always does. But tonight, you can rest. You've earned it. Thank you for watching Sleepless Survivors. If this helped you drift off, give it a like. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. And let me know in the comments, did you make it to the end, or did sleep claim you first? Until next time, survive well, and sleep well. Good night. Retry.